And 1 drop of Wonder Bond is strong enough to hold up to 5,000 pounds. You still don't trust me? Then trust this. It's from Elmer's. Stick with a name you can trust. New Elmer's Wonder Bond.
Arthritis sufferers, when minor pain strikes, doctors recommend one medicine more than any other. It's in Arthritis Pain Formula, the arthritis specialist. Look, for painful joints, compare ordinary headache tablets to Arthritis Pain Formula. APF has 50% more pain medicine. Relief lasts for hours. And 2 buffers help protect your stomach. Get the one pain reliever doctors recommend most. It's in Arthritis Pain Formula, the arthritis specialist.
Economist Milton Friedman will be questioned tomorrow on Meet the Press.
Chips, some college hotshots take John and Punch on a wild goose chase.
Another goose strikes again.
But they end up holding a dangerous grudge against Chips. Then, the birth of a town called Centennial.
$10 an acre. And I'll grow potatoes. And I'll be king of potatoes.
Chips, followed by Centennial, tonight on NBC.
Minnesota Republicans and Democrats spent the day looking back and looking forward, and we'll take a look back 38 years to a memorable blizzard that hit Minnesota on the state. Those stories and more in just a moment on Eyewitness News.
Canon's new P10D has plain paper tape like most adding machines, and a display like a lot of printing calculators, 10-digit readout and live memory too. But the Canon P10D isn't like the others because it gives you all these features and more in a size this small. The portable Canon P10D plain paper printer, complete with rechargeable battery. We've done it again.
Canon's PT10D is available at Dayton's.
My flashlight's almost always in use, so I use Duracell batteries.
Mine sits in a drawer for months till I need it. That's why I use Duracell. Duracell batteries stay fresh a long time.
We tested 2-year-old Duracell batteries against brand new regular carbon batteries. And in continuous use, 2-year-old Duracell batteries still lasted up to 5 times longer. Duracell. The copper top battery.
They last longer when you use them?
And even when you don't.
Here's bad news for corn rootworms. Bad news for corn cutworms. It's Bigfoot Law's ban, big enough to stomp both rootworm and cutworm too. Yet it costs only about what you'd pay for ordinary rootworm insecticides. Bigfoot Law's ban, bad news for both worms. From Dow.
Eyewitness News, the Northwest's most complete, comprehensive, and up-to-the-minute coverage. With weatherman Roy Finden, sportscaster Ed Karow, and anchorman Stan Turner.
Good evening, everyone. The state's first winter storm, an invader from the west, has left the Twin Cities virtually untouched. Although colder weather has moved in, most of the snow, the ones that did fall, fell in a line from Alexandria to Duluth. Tonight on Eyewitness News, we're going to tell you about a storm that paralyzed the state of Minnesota and killed 49 people 38 years ago today. It was the Armistice Day blizzard of 1940. And in St. Paul this morning, a fire of suspicious origin destroyed an unoccupied home and injured 1 firefighter. We'll get to those stories and more a bit later, but first, some interesting political developments in our area today. Independent Republicans, first of all, meeting to choose a leader for the caucus in the Minnesota State House of Representatives. Membership of that body, as you well know, is split right down the middle right now, half DFLers and half Independent Republicans. That raises the very distinct possibility of numerous deadlocks and a session in which maybe not too much will get done. Doug Carlson of Sandstone has been campaigning hard for the post of Independent Republican caucus leader. He is known as a fiercely partisan politician, but instead the caucus chose Rod Searle of Waseca, a 22-year veteran known for a rational approach and an ability to compromise with the opposition. Searle spoke today in favor of an elected House leadership.
If we had a designed group
that want to act as the leadership, and it's been formed ahead of time. We're going to get into a split as sure as God made little green apples, and we are not going to have the unification which we have right now. Although an elected body entirely would be the most difficult to work with, I think we have the talent in this caucus to go with that, because if we go with all elected, coming from the entire caucus, giving the 32 members as much voice as anyone else, and forget the seniority, I think that we'll be in a much better and stronger position to deal with the DFL and with the Senate.
If the IR-DFL tie holds when the recounts are completed, Searle promised to work closely with the DFL. The DFL Executive Committee met today for the first time since those Republican triumphs in Tuesday's elections, and as Channel 5's Kathy Dalglish reports to us here, those elections very much on the DFLers' mind.
It was an attractive slate of candidates, they said. How could so many have lost? It seemed that every member of the DFL Executive Committee had a theory.
Some people have suggested that if Hubert Humphrey were alive, that this type of thing could not have happened.
But there's some things that we've done that Hubert Humphrey never did. He never got in bed with Republicans.
We're out of tune with real Minnesota.
The public did perceive, whether right or wrong, corruption and also arrogancy of the DFL. And also we're voting for integrity, whether right or wrong. I think they were voting for integrity in our leaders of this state.
But the session wasn't entirely devoted to distributing the fault.
And I've had about 4 or 5 meetings of my own in the last 2 days, and we've come to a conclusion on blame. And I want to share that with you. There's enough to go around. There is enough for everybody.
Both winning and losing candidates were there to urge the party faithful to stop fights among political factions and put the DFL coalition back together.
So let's try to renew and sort of have our own spirit of Camp David or whatever it may be here today, and try to be a little more tolerant of all the people that we don't get along with.
The chance to reunite may come next month when the party's Central Committee meets in Duluth. Kathy Dalglish, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
And there may be a change of DFL State Senate leadership in the winds. Assistant Majority Leader Winston Borden will reportedly be named president of the Minnesota Association of Commerce and Industry, MACI, on Monday. Borden is not denying the report, but he does call it premature. Borden would have to, of course, resign to take that post, and a special election would have to be held to fill his state Senate seat. Some labor leaders met today in Minneapolis to organize a new lobbying effort. The All Unions Conference to Shorten the Work Week wants to do just that, achieve a 4-day work week with no cut in pay. Their biggest argument is that fewer hours mean more people can work. Similar meetings are going on all over the country this weekend. Leaders say they will work through collective bargaining, legislative lobbying, and public education. The Minnesota Energy Agency has asked the U.S. Department of Energy to divert some 300,000 gallons of gasoline to help the state to relieve its temporary gasoline shortages. The state's gasoline supply is down 30%, while the usage, the demand, is up about 3%. The problem is expected to last a couple of weeks. The shortages, though, are not expected to be major. Channel 5 reporter Bob Clark talked with the Assistant Energy Agency Director today. Ron Visnus says it's a distribution problem caused in part by a maintenance shutdown of the Ashland Northwest Refinery in South St. Paul.
The companies that normally use the product from that refinery didn't compensate for the shutdown by increasing shipments on the product's pipeline, and therefore inventories were drawn down quite severely, and certain companies have run with extremely low inventories.
How widespread is the shortage?
Geographically, it's all over the upper Midwest, but when we look at the overall supply-demand balance, we find that there should be enough gasoline. In other words, if one station runs out, there should be another station that would have some.
The problem primarily affects regular gasoline. And a product which could ultimately replace gasoline, that's gasohol, went on sale in the Twin Cities this past week. Today, the Minneapolis pollution control officials were pleasantly surprised after running emissions tests on the gasohol. According to the officials, 3 cars were tested, and in each instance, carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon exhausts were reduced, much lower than had been expected. Glenn Keeker of the Minneapolis PCA says that efforts are being made to get federal funds so that more tests can be made, but he says gasohol is here to stay. A 2.5-story frame house on Marshall Avenue in St. Paul burst into flames this morning. The structure was fully engulfed when firefighters arrived on the scene about 9:20. One firefighter was hurt. He put out some flames on the 2nd story and crashed through the floor in the stairwell on the way down. He was taken to St. Paul Ramsey Hospital, where he was treated for an injury to his foot and then released. The house had been unoccupied for some time. The cause of the fire, according to officials, suspicious. Veterans Day was observed today, and we'll talk about that and about a killer blizzard of 38 years ago, as well as some more news in just a moment.
Harvest time. These farmers are looking over some mighty clean rows of corn. Sutan Plus herbicide and atrazine really control the weeds. And that means a good yield and a clean harvest. When a herbicide keeps a field this clean this late, word gets around. Sutan Plus, dependable because it always works.
Introducing a whole new breed of Mustang. The all-new 79 Mustang from Ford. With a new aerodynamic design, precise handling, and Mustang performance from options of V6, V8, even a turbocharged engine. Mustang for 79, the new breed.
Test drive the hot new breed of Mustang today at your Northland Ford dealer.
100 years ago, William Payne and Wallace Weber opened an investment firm.
Of course, we can't assure you that you'll make money.
But we'll try.
Thank you, Payne. Thank you, Weber.
Since then, we've tried to provide people with the best service.
Thank you, Payne Weber.
The best brokers.
Thank you, Payne Weber.
And the best research.
Thank you, Payne Weber.
A lot has changed in 100 years, but we still work hard to hear you say,
Thank you, Payne Weber.
Talk to us now. You could thank us later. Payne Weber.
Before Sears mechanics get their diplomas from our tune-up school, they gotta take all sorts of tests.
Each of these cars has a hidden malfunction. I want you to find it and get it started. Go.
Those testing machines aren't there just to impress you. Sears mechanics are trained to use them, to pinpoint the problem and fix it. Got it. Professional work from a trained Sears mechanic. Trust Sears.
Carbonated water taken out of the ground in southern France and then bottled is selling like your basic hotcakes these days in the Twin Cities. Channel 5's Marcia Fleur tells us about the unbelievable popularity of Perrier water.
This scene is repeated night after night in disco after disco all around the Twin Cities. Around the world, for that matter. These people are not drinking whiskey or gin or vodka, not even light beer. This drink doesn't have a drop of alcohol in it. It's Perrier water, and its popularity is unbelievable. Perrier is a naturally carbonated mineral water imported from France. No artificial anything is added. The company says that one doesn't feel bloated because the carbonation is natural. It's so popular that a Minneapolis firm which supplies many bars says it can't keep it in stock. Officials at Gourmet Foods, a wholesaler in St. Paul, say they were the first to carry it in this area. That was in 1965, and they sold 10 cases a week. Now they sell as much as they can get their hands on, 4,000 to 5,000 cases a week. A slick ad campaign on the east and west coasts, word of mouth, and a certain mystic made Perrier a hit here.
A certain amount of romanticism in drinking or consuming Perrier water that's been created through their advertising, and it's become the in drink, it seems, for a lot of people who are looking for that type of product. There are other products of that type available, but Perrier outdistances the other one perhaps by 100 to 1.
Perrier was once found only in a few major food stores. Now nearly every major chain carries it, and once again, sales are going up. A very strange phenomenon. Carbonated water bubbles out of the ground in the south of France, and it sells like mad in the land of 10,000 lakes. This is Marcia Fleur, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Today is the special day of recognition for all the men and women who served in America's armed services and forces. Veterans Day started as a celebration of the end of the First World War. On November the 11th, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson called on the people to set the day aside to remember the horrors of war. Today, all over the country, special services were held to honor those who fought for America. Over at the Veterans Affairs Administration Hospital in Minneapolis, patients got the VIP treatment today. In a special program sponsored by the hospital, several very interested persons came to visit the vets. The Minneapolis Aquatennial's Queen of the Lakes was on hand to brighten some spirits, and helping her out were members of the Minneapolis Aquajesters Clown Club. In Arlington, Virginia, President Carter laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. He later unveiled a bronze plaque in honor of Vietnam-era vets who he said were all unknown soldiers because their sacrifice has not been adequately recognized. A similar ceremony in France today, this one to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Armistice ending World War I. It began with the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand and ended with the deaths of more than 8 million combatants on both sides. But Steve Porter of NBC News has this report.
The hallmark of the war was the trenches and thousands of men who died trying to take a few yards at a time. This war saw, in the first big way, the use of long-range artillery, which when accurate took heavy tolls in the trenches, and the tank, which was impervious to rifle fire and could roll with impunity over the trenches, barbed wire, and earth gouged by artillery shells. Air warfare, first with reconnaissance, came into being. The plane became a weapon used against troops and then on ships. Along with the submarine, it spelled the beginning of the end of the big warships, the cruisers and the battleships. Some of the most memorable footage, the German cruiser Blücher being overturned. 3 great empires collapsed, that of Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany, of Franz Joseph of Austria, and Tsar Nicholas of Russia. At the end, a peace treaty was signed amid great ceremony at Versailles. New European states came into being, and there appeared to be peace for a time. But neither the war nor the treaty settled anything. World War II started 20 years later.
Many Minnesotans also remember Armistice Day because of the blizzard which paralyzed the state on this date 38 years ago. 49 persons were killed, hundreds others were stranded and lost. Channel 5's Don Beeler prepared this report on the events of November 11th, 1940.
When John Rusted came to work at KSTP radio that day, he was still remembering Roosevelt's third election and Minnesota's 7-6 win over Michigan for the national championship. He slept that night on a Davenport in the St. Paul Hotel. He was one of the lucky ones. The day dawned pretty. The rain began in mid-morning. By afternoon, the blizzard was on. Before it ended, 26 inches of snow fell in St. Paul. 49 people died along the Minnesota-Wisconsin border areas. The blizzard caught livestock unprepared. Turkeys froze in their tracks. Farmers without a rope guideline became lost between the house and the barn. Ice froze rail tracks in the yards. Trains, unable to switch, could not move. The cars along Excelsior Boulevard near the Minnetonka Bridge were termed islands in a sea of snow. It was days before a streetcar could move east on Selby, or before Bill Sealaff could deliver milk. As blizzards go in Minnesota, it was, is, and probably will be the benchmark. Don Beeler, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Well, things are pretty tame in our area so far as the weather goes. In fact, not too much of a change for tomorrow. Maybe some precipitation figures in the forecast. We'll find out more from Roy Finden right after these words.
Over the last 3 years, more farmers have switched to counter 15G soil insecticide than to any competitive product. The reason they've switched is no secret. 9 out of 10 farmers say that corn rootworms are their #1 soil insect problem, and Counter provides the best rootworm control money can buy. That's not just idle talk. University research and extension test data prove it. And since no evidence of rootworm resistance at Counter has ever been found, it's one product you can switch to and stick with.
When the winter's worst blizzard hit Red Lodge, Montana, 3 tow rows took it on. A 14-inch, 20-inch, and electric start 20. hit Red Lodge. 3 tow rows to help clear away. Haven't you done without a tow row long enough?
Save up to $30.
Do you know me? You'd think having won Wimbledon, people would recognize me. But without my racket, they don't. So I carry an American Express card. I use it on tour from here to Australia to the US. You know, airlines and restaurants are more impressed with this than a good backhand.
To apply for a card, look for this display wherever the card is welcomed.
The American Express card, don't leave home without it.
Excuse me, you Miss Wade? Really?
They're so stupid. Boys, you hear who's in our division?
No,
the North Stars. Yeah. They're going to be tough this year.
Nah, they'll be.
I don't believe it either, but I'll tell you one thing. They're in the iron of the league.
That's right.
Yeah, in the Adams division. Toronto and Buffalo are ready. We're ready. They better be ready, right?
Don't worry, we'll be ready.
The Minnesota North Stars. Major League Hockey is back in town.
Well, it looks like the Twin Cities area has missed round 1 of winter's assault.
Yes, that's true, and let's take them one round at a time. Tonight looks nice and quiet. Cold,
yes,
but nice and quiet, and then there's tomorrow. At the moment, it's 34 degrees. It's been there since about noontime. Dew point is 20. The relative humidity is 56%. A northeast wind of 17. Chilly. The pressure, is high at 30.55, and it's rising. That's high pressure. High pressure is cold air, especially at this time of the year. The high pressure is centered right over North Dakota and is going to dip things as cool as 0 in northeastern Minnesota tonight and down perhaps into the lower 20s, even here in the Twin Cities. Big area of high pressure. Yesterday's storms are going in this direction, but we have another impulse that is organizing down here in Nevada and is large enough to have put into tonight's forecast travelers' advisories for snow and wind from parts of North Dakota all the way down to the Texas Panhandle. Heavy snow warnings all the way from southwestern South Dakota through the mountains of Colorado, Montana, and Wyoming, and down into New Mexico. Heavy snow warnings. Winter storm warnings for parts of both Arizona and Utah. What a big storm, and moving in this direction. Let's look at it on the satellite picture and see how it appears. This is a wide view of the U.S. Get your bearings here for just a second, and if you look very carefully, you can sort of make out the circulation, the circulation around that building low-pressure area that's way down there in the southwest. And there's some cloudiness closer to where we are, too. Let's check the radar to be sure that there's nothing untoward happening anywhere around the Twin Cities area. And it looks perfectly clear. It confirms what we had suspected there. So for tonight, a nice, quiet, kind of a cool night. Now, as this low moves, expected to move in this direction and expected to be in South Dakota by sometime late tomorrow. Now, as it does that, it brings into our area winter storm watch. There's winter storm watch for both of the Dakotas for late tomorrow and tomorrow night, also for northwestern Minnesota. And for us here in the Twin Cities, we're just on the edge of the circulation of that system. Late tomorrow, when it'll be very cold here, but the warmer air will be getting intruded into the system as the circulation comes in this direction. A chance of some rain, possibly some freezing rain, possibly some light snow. And then as it continues to warm, rain in the forecast tomorrow night. The cold from this system, wow, we had 20s below 0 in parts of Montana. Very, very cold air moving in this direction. As I said, something near 0 is expected up in northeastern Minnesota tonight. In the Twin Cities, the afternoon high is 38. That was not the afternoon high. That was early this morning. 34, the afternoon high. The low so far has been 32 degrees with no precipitation. At 5 o'clock, it's already 18 up at International Falls. There is some light snow reported at Rapid City, where it is 16. That's the only precipitation. Here's the forecast for tonight. Variable high cloudiness and colder, a low of 14 in the outlying areas, 25 in the city, northeast wind of 5 to 10. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy with rain, possibly freezing rain, or some snow developing during the late afternoon, a high of 33 to 37, east to southeast winds of 10 to 15. Then for tomorrow night, cloudy and warmer with rain. The low will be steady or rising during the evening from around freezing. And Monday, cloudy with occasional rain, a high of 40 to 47. And that chance of the measurable rain is 50% late tomorrow and 80% for tomorrow night.
Well, that almost smacks of winter, doesn't it?
Yes.
Woohoo! The state high school football championship opponents are set. And the Spartans, you could say, put the fox in the Gophers' cloak. The Gophers lost. Ed Karow, next with Eyewitness Sports.
We wish we could drive up to every home in America and convince you personally to install a reliable fire detector. a Wells Fargo fire detector. Our company is the leader in fire detectors for government and industry. And now Wells Fargo detectors with extra protection features are available for your home. Get Wells Fargo. Extra protection fire and smoke detectors.
The 1978 isotoners are here. The high-performance gloves by Aris with that famous isomassage action as standard equipment. They give you the Aris touch with sleek, racy lines, real leather strips, and custom colors. One size, so they're great gifts. Isotoner by Aris, the better idea in gloves.
Find Isotoner gloves by Aris at Dayton's.
Our little cats from Lincoln Mercury are tough on competition. Starting with October 6th production, our Bobcat has more standard equipment than last year. And Bobcat's sticker price, as shown, is $38.40. Yet comparably equipped, it's $181 less than a $78. Great, Bobcat. Our Monarch has handsome styling, luxuriously equipped, and it's ride engineered. Monarch's price, just $45.58. That's class, Monarch. You'll find big values at the sign of the little cat.
Remember the agony of learning to play a musical instrument? Forget it. Now, space-age electronic circuitry puts the fun of really making music at your fingertips instantly with Lowry's newest organ. Only Lowry has automatic magic melody tabs. Lets you sound like a pro the second you sit down. Only Lowry creates this kind of exciting music like magic. No wonder Lowry is #1 in electronic organs.
Make Lowry magic in the Twin Cities at all Northwest piano and organ stores.
How bad was it?
Well, it was so bad. Split end Eugene Bird caught 2 touchdown passes. Eugene Bird, he can fly. 2 touchdown passes in the real estate Minnesota was trying to protect. Spartan quarterback Ed Smith riddled the Gopher defense with passes. Michigan State could have made it worse than the 33-9 grilling. They had not dropped the ball, or had they not dropped the ball. Fumbled twice, in fact, on the Minnesota 1-yard line. One Gopher bright spot, 2 of them really. Middle guard Jeff Carr picked up a fumble, returned it 71 yards to give Minnesota its first points of the game. Elmer Bailey's kick return worked spectacular. Next week, the last home side game, that'll be against Illinois. Here's how the Big Ten went today. A couple of surprises. Michigan State beating Minnesota. Michigan walloped Northwestern. Purdue and Wisconsin tied. Ohio State over Illinois. Indiana beating Iowa. In the top 10, Nebraska over Oklahoma. Penn State beat North Carolina State. Alabama over Louisiana State. In the third, USC leading Washington. Houston has beaten Texas. At the half, UCLA and Oregon State are tied. Georgia has beaten Florida. Notre Dame over Tennessee. Iowa State beat Oklahoma State today. Closer to home, St. Olaf over Augsburg. Concordia of Moorhead beat Bethel. Gustavus beat McAllister. McAllister scored a safety. And St. Thomas over St. John's. In the NIC, Southwest beat Bemidji, UMD over Moorhead, and Minnesota Morris downed Michigan Tech. Well, the elements seemed right for Minnesota playoff football in the Class C semifinal game at Brainerd last night. Defending champion Battle Lake scored a first-quarter touchdown on this 25-yard run by Steve Carr for a 7-point lead. Sandstone had been unbeaten before running up against Battle Lake last night. They called on Steve Payne. He reeled off this 32-yarder to lock the game at 7, and it stayed that way till halftime. But despite the cold, Battle Lake found that the passing game worked, and after a fumble recovery, threw this one down to the Sandstone 1. And on the next play, which ultimately was the game winner, Jeff Hull banged into the end zone. Battle Lake continued its successful defense of its Class C title with a 27-7 win. They'll play Alden Conger for the title next week. Speaking of that schedule, here it is. The Double-A game will be played Friday at Parade Stadium. The Class A game will be played Thursday at Parade Stadium. Class B, Friday at St. Cloud Tech. Class C will be held at Wilmer on Friday night. Another Friday game in 9-man will be played at Foley, and all games will be played at 7:30 p.m. The Vikings meet the Bears tomorrow, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, schedule change at the Met. Chicago switching quarterbacks to go with Phipps for Avellini. And Alan Page returns to the Met for the first time since the Bears grabbed his waiver. Minnesota trails Green Bay in the NFC Central. The Packers host Dallas at Milwaukee tomorrow. The North Stars conclude their road trip at Los Angeles tonight, where they'll try to continue to build on their traveling team reputation. They've won their last 2 games on the road. Last night's a 3-2 affair with rookie Bobby Smith ripping in a 40-footer in the waiting moments against Vancouver. All tonight's action to be on KSTP Radio. The Gopher Hockeyites are having their problems living up to that #1 ranking of theirs. They lost to a quick young Notre Dame contingent at Williams Arena last night, 3-2. Play again tonight, 7:30, Williams Arena. And last night, Las Vegas, Larry Holmes held on to his World Boxing Council heavyweight title with a one-sided defeat of Alfredo Evangelista. The Spaniard, outgunned from the beginning, took the last of Holmes' gratis boxing lesson in the 7th round, numbed by a tremendous right hand. And heavyweights all over that card last night. Ken Norton, no stranger to comebacks, started another one when he destroyed Randy Stevens with a left hook early in the 3rd round. All Stevens could do was try to get up. Earlier, Scott Ledoux of Minneapolis knocked out James Brown of South Carolina in 2.
Somehow that's not my game, Ed. You know what
Boxing?
I mean? Yeah. Just a little. McAllister got a safety.
Got a safety today.
Okay.
I'm going to look up when the last time was they scored.
They scored. That was my next question. Maybe we'll find out by 10 o'clock tonight. We'll see you then. Good night.
Do you know me? This is Singapore, and it's no mystery to me. I'm Haiti from American Express Travel Service. And if you come in with your American Express card...
It's twice as juicy. Next time, try a double. But be careful.
Channel 5, KSTP TV, St. Paul, Minneapolis.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Because of its low operating expenses, Mutual of Omaha can bring you this family show and still give its policy owners maximum benefits at minimum costs.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. There are only a few areas